Welcome to the channel. Now we fit a lot of Velux windows, and these Velux windows that we fitted on this job are quite unusual because the trusses, the structural trusses are set at 1.2 meters apart, which means that there's a lot less work to do. Basically means that all the tiles we take out are about the same weight as the window that goes back in. There's no structural cutting of any rafters, and if you've fitted Velux windows, you know that they actually mount onto the roofer's batten. Years ago they'd fixed to the rafters, but now they actually fix onto the roofer's batten, which sets up all the flashing heights and everything else. And we're going to get one fitted from the start, taking off the sarking board and getting it all stripped off and fitted, the unboxing, the whole thing, and we'll take you through it. So basically the trusses here are at 1200 centres. Yes, it's pretty unheard of. In fact, it's the first time I've seen it in the UK. When you're fixing a Velux window, especially with a pan tile, we've got a Regent here, you need to make sure that when you position them, they suit the tiles as much as possible so you don't end up with a nasty cut or a bad join. So what we've done is we've worked with the Velux here, and we're using the insulated collar. We're also using the fabric skin on the outside, which creates a much airtighter sort of solution, which is really important nowadays. We've made ourselves an OSB frame. Took a couple of minutes, and this OSB frame represents the structural aperture, including the insulated collar. Now the insulated collar, to use that, you take the window width and the window length and you add 45 millimeters on each direction. That's the minimum you add on. We've actually added 50 to give ourselves a couple of mil either side. And then we've centered it up with the courses of the tiles. We've made sure it fits in relationship to the trusses, and in this case, a stud wall, which will carry on up. We then mount this on, square it all up and get it true, mark all the way around it. We've fixed the batten, which we run our small roofing circular saw all the way down. We take this out of the way, run it all the way down, and it gives us a perfect aperture. But we've got the luxury here of doing an absolute proper job, and you know that I like that. So that's it, we're gonna crack on, aren't we, Lloyd?
Yeah, we're gonna get going.
And keep going. So this was what we used to make sure we were nice and true. We had a centre line with the tiles here. It's important that we're nice and true with the tiles. That gave us the size to cut our opening. And then what we can do now is, knowing that that's right, is take the tiles out. So all I need to do is find one which isn't nailed, slide it up the roof. Let's take this one to create an opening, and then I can ease it out. There we go. And that's basically what we'll do now, just create some space. Now I'll take all the tiles that I need to take off now. I'll do some of that from here, and then I'll do some of it from on the roof carefully. I'm just going to cut my way out. So what we did is we slid the counter batten in, a new piece of counter batten, and fixed it all through to support the ends of these battens. If we didn't do that first, because of the span, they'd all start moving around, and if they're joined back on the next rafter, then they'd move up and down as well. So by doing this, all I need to do now is take the battens off as I go with a multi-tool or a handsaw. I've revealed the bottom course. Now this course here is where the bottom flashing will sit over, but because they're a profile pan tile, what we have to do is take an ellipse off the top of all of these, so when the flashing comes through, it's not gutted and it's not sitting in here too tight. So this course will go as well, and that's the last course on the bottom. Then I've got another couple of courses on the top to get out of the way, which I'll do now. If you're wondering what blade I've got in here, this is a Bosch blade, and they seem to last and last and last. They're probably pretty pricey compared to some others on the market, but they're just a wonderful blade. So I know that people might ask in the comments, oh, that's a good blade, what is that blade? So there you go, it's a Bosch. So there we have it. It's very simple in a roof like this to create the opening that we need. We did do some prep work. As I say, we had the sarking out, we put our counter battens in, we fixed everything together so it's nice and secure. I'm going to take the rest of the tiles off now. I'll probably get a pair of steps in here to get myself through. So now we've got a big enough hole to work with. We have to add a couple of battens to support the Velux. So here's the counter batten that I was mentioning that we'd slid in before we cut these off to attach everything back together, because if these were joined here, they'd be moving all over the place at the moment, and it's quite fragile as well. So that's a nice way of making sure it's nice and secured. We now need to fix a batten all the way through the bottom. That is the one that the Velux sits on. That's the one that the brackets have the small downturn that locks against. And to get that in nice and square, I'll use the frame again. So this is the counter batten on the bottom. We'll fix that back to the rafters all the way through. And that's the one that the window brackets actually sit on. I'll pop a screw in here. Then we'll use the frame, slot it down, and that's basically squared that up. That means when I sit the window on, the brackets are going to be nice and even. With the installation of the window, I have another batten to go through here, but what I want to do is actually get under some of this felt if possible. It's quite difficult because with the sarking board, it's actually welded itself in places down to the sarking board, so I can free it here. And what I've got to do is put a cut in and actually lift it up. So I'm just going to take it like this and take it across on an angle, and then this will eventually go into a special metal gutter channel that Velux sends you. So any moisture that gets under the tiles onto the old felt, it comes down, it goes into the channel and then travels down out the way. So it's a very nice, neat idea. Hard to fit sometimes if you're watching this and thinking, oh, I couldn't get it in. Water should never get underneath the tiles. Condensation should never form under the tiles if you've got your ventilation right. But inevitably tiles do leak and everything else. So it's like a second line of defense, because if it's not there and anything happens up the roof, a tile breaks, ridge tiles come off, heavy storms, the chances are it will show on the window. It will show on the plasterwork and the window. It will hit the window and it will drip through. And then of course you have to get out and repair the roof. But I've fitted, I don't know, I wouldn't mind saying 1,000 roof windows in the last 35 years. And I've never ever had one that goes wrong. Partly why I quite like using the Velux system is because they're really reliable, super reliable, and they never seem to go wrong. So yeah, so we're just going to trim this felt out. We've got another batten that goes through here. I'm going to support that batten with another section of batten in the middle, and that's the one that takes the top brackets of the windows. Then we unbox the window, get the brackets on, take the glass out to make it nice and light and still give us access, put the frame in, screw it in, get the flashings and the tiles round, pop the glass back, job's done. This top batten is where the top bracket of the Velux goes, and it will be in this position here, and that's spaced from the bottom bracket where the bottom Velux sits, and we're just going to screw that one through as well, and then we're ready for the frame. So we've got 3 boxes. One is the window, the next one is the insulated collar that goes around as well, and the last one is the flashing kit for these particular tiles. So the first job is to take the window from the box and actually get that ready. On the side of the window you can see there's these staples here. Now those want to be pulled out, okay, because the flashings do come down and also that collar comes out the way, so it's best to get those pulled out as well. The brackets, this is a bracket, and they go into the window, they fix into the window, there we go, like this, and the lugs actually go and set it against the battens, all right? There's specific holes for these brackets, so when they go in, you line those up, and that is critical that you fix them in that position. So we'd repeat that on all 4 corners, and that's the brackets in and done. So what we like to do is take the glass out of the frame. It's super simple. There's no screws involved. It's just a matter of pushing 2 small lugs in the hinges. But to do that, what we do is bring it over, stand it up on this batten here so that the brackets aren't, so we rest the window on there, the brackets just sort of down from there. Open the glass up, rest one part of the frame on, push the lugs and carefully take it out. Good. it comes with a small piece of card which is basically holding it all together. This comes out the way. Now this is flopping around, so that needs to be located. I know you're the expert at this, Lloyd. I keep getting it wrong.
So sometimes it goes first go.
Alright, so we've got it. So what that's done is now attach that. Now because this is a top hung window, we've got the secondary handle at the bottom which we need to crank. But the top hung arms, they're not sprung yet, so they're not going to pop out, which is really quite crucial. So Lloyd's got the frame, I'll open it up, I'm going to crack it, put it all the way around until I can rest here. Now here we've got these two little pins which say press. So we press these in, and as we press these in, the swing arm of the hinge will want to drop out, and so the window will go with it. I've got the bottom of the window, Lloyd's got that side. Push it with anything, this little thing. Ready? That's it. So now it's freed up this. Now it's free. Rest that carefully on the floor. Just pop yours down there. That's it. We've got the window ready. The glass is out, the frame is ready. But before we put that in, we have to make the insulated collar. This is the insulated collar. Pull the ripcord. Open the box. And inside, we've got a number of components. You're the expert, Lloyd. Fitted all the others together. So, to get these together, number of clips. That's it. So they're designed to just clip together. There's no mechanical fixings. And this forms the nice collar. Just got a left and a right. Around this way. And the rebates want to face inwards. So this is how it looks before you put it together. And the idea is you slot the two parts together. Inside there's a small metal part that goes into here. So it's just a matter of offering that together. And there's a positive click. Once you've got it lined up, you can just push it and click. So you're looking inside here to find that metal clip which goes inside there. You also got to then adjust the insulation to work into itself. Put that in there like so. Line all your insulation up and click. Now the idea of this is they used to have a top and bottom from memory, but these have actually got, they're isometric, so no matter which way round you turn them. And there's a little opening there. If you're putting an electric Velux in, that's where the electric cable passes through. They also correspond with the brackets. So this drops into our aperture now. The metal bracket sits on our prepared opening. You can see that we've kept it all to be a nice fit. So that's the first thing we do. The next thing we do is we put the frame into that. We don't put any fixings into this at this point. You can fix it all the way around if you want, but don't do it yet because obviously it's floppy, yeah? And the window frame will keep everything square. Now the window frame comes in and sits in against here, and this forms the insulated collar. When we insulate our roof, it will meet here, and we've got a continuous insulated shell. So once we had the frame made up with the brackets, it's just a matter of passing it through the roof nice and carefully, try not to sort of distort it at all, and then it actually just slips into the rebated part of the insulated collar. So the insulated collar at this point isn't fixed, as I mentioned. We just slot this all in, get it all together as one. Now you could possibly put the insulated collar round the window frame and then bring it all through, but it gets a little bit clumsy because it's quite a tight fit. And then it's just a matter of popping the frame down, and it makes everything nice and secure. So the brackets sit perfectly there on the bottom of the batten there that we'd set through, and then it's just a matter of squaring it up, something I mentioned next. So we're going to fix the frame in now. It also holds the insulation collar, and we're going to use the screws, exactly the same screws that came with the brackets that go into the windows, apart from the long ones which will go all the way through and into a rafter, or in our case into the batten and the counter batten. But before we fix it, we're going to check it square. So we've got a pinch rod here which I'm going to hold in the bottom corner. Lloyd has got a reference mark on the top, which is the top corner here. We're going to check that in the other side.
Yep, that's good.
And so that's how we know the window's square. Now if you use a tape measure and try and bend a tape measure in, it's just pretty inaccurate. One screw in each corner, one here, one in the top corner, and we just check the pinch rod. And if those two have held it exactly where we want it, then we can go around and fix it all in. So you can see the setup. The screws correspond with the insulation collar as well. So I can actually attach it through both here. Now we'll check it with the pinch rod one more time, and if we're happy with that, it's just a matter of screwing it all in. All right, Lloyd? And because we know the pinch rod is exactly the same, we don't have to check it on both sides, we only have to check it on one, because if it's moved, it'll be out. So that's it, we can screw the frame in now, and then we move on to the fabric collar, which is a very simple fit as well. Before we start the flashings and tiling, we are putting this collar on. Now this collar goes all the way around the frame. It's got a rip-off adhesive section here, which actually glues it to the side of the frame. It's quite ingenious. Now the reason why it's got this like concertina here is the idea is that we actually mould it all around the battens, and we actually staple it to the battens, to the sarking, and that basically stops any unnecessary air swashing around the windows. And at the very top, it's got a larger flashing, which we trim down, we feed underneath the felt, the existing felt that's on the roof, and then, so it's going underneath the felt, and then we get the existing roof felt and we push it into here. We use these metal clips here to secure it. That holds it all together. Now this is actually a gutter, and you can see that there's an arrow on one side. That's the direction of travel. So when it's on the roof, let me just hold it like this, it wants to actually be leaning to one side. And all that does, as I said before, anything that gets under the tiles that shouldn't get under the tiles will go in here and divert around the side of the window and not leak into the room. And it's telescopic, so these obviously fit wider and shorter windows. So that's the next job. We're going to put this on, staple it in, glue it back to the frame, then cut the bottom tiles, then get the flashings in and tile it in, and then put the glass back. So let's put it all round first. It's like a big sock, or a scarf in fact. And attach the bottom here. I'll get it all held. If I start at the bottom, peeling this one off, and what I want to do with that is push it down until we are at this point, at the very bottom of the frame of the window. Glue that back. So we repeat that process up the side now. So what I'm doing is pushing the collar against the insulation collar there. There we go. So we do that all the way around. Then we want to work this all the way around the battens, and we're going to staple this in with the stapler. So what we're doing is we're going to try and staple it to the sarking all round, push this whole felt down, get this all stapled in to the battens. And that's a really nice job if you ask me. So we set the top on again exactly the same way, peel and stick, pushing it down against our batten and setting it on here all the way through. Turn these around. So I'm going to trim it down to get enough cover. And then we can carry on attaching. Now this is where we introduce the gutter. We slide it open and this existing felt is going to come into it. I'm going to shorten that down as well. Take a couple of inches off of this. We're going to let that come inside there now. Some roofing felts are a lot easier than others. This is a little bit more tricky, this one, because it's the old bitumen one. There we go. It's quite ingenious, and a lot of times you find these not being fitted. That has formed a really nice gutter, and then we can use the clips. Now they're a bit sprung, these, but you can actually just squash them in a little bit, especially in the case of this kind of felt, and then you just basically clip them in, and that's securing it all then. So there's the gutter all clipped in. So here's the bottom course that goes directly under the window, and we need to take off the top of these rolls. So we take it just above the nail to here, and we do that everywhere, basically, to make sure that the flashing comes round and lays over it nicely. If you don't do that, it's really difficult to get that flashing in, and this is actually what you do for every pan tile or profile pan tile. So I've laid them all out here, and they'll go back in the roof like that as well. Just show you a little cut close up of what that means to take that off. That's what we'll be taking off. All of them, we'll make them nice and smooth, take them all off, and then we'll lay those in the roof. So the bottom course of tiles which we took the crests off are now in. So this is the flashing kit. We're going to unbox this one, take it out. They're all numbered, incidentally, which is quite handy, okay? And we need the clips and we need the screws. So the screws are color coded, so they actually match all of the flashings, obviously. And there's actually not that many screws, but you don't really want to lose them. There's always a spare, but you don't want to lose them. So I shall put these in the pouch so they're ready. This is the first piece which we're going to put on. This is the bit that goes down over the tiles. So we're going to slot this in first and partially form it around the tiles. So this is the bottom flashing, and that basically goes straight in here. Now this actually gets held by another section. Now there's a groove in the bottom of the window that this all locates into, and what we have to do that is just ease the flashing until it holds itself into the spot. So I'm just easing the flashing like this and pulling it in. This is the next section, which is actually the bit that holds it, and now that also goes into the little trim groove in the bottom, and we want to make sure that there's a little lug here which actually goes into the window as well. Now that pushes into the window, both sides, and that is held, and that will take 3 screws. So don't over tighten the screws. Don't use you know, like a screwdriver that's going to ruin everything. You just want enough. And then we've got 2 screws that go into these silver brackets, which are silver screws. So that clamps it all on, and that's all we need to do for the time being. And we're going to dress this apron at the bottom here over the profile of the tiles, and again, because of the way they make it, it's quite easy to mold it around. So it's just a matter of pushing it into the tiles using the palm of your hand. That's a really nice detail. And that crest of the tile has meant that it's not snagging or kicking up. And we keep working that round. So that's basically the bottom flashing done. 2 more screws in here. That's it. Now we're ready for the side flashings. Now these trays lay up the side and they clip under the side of the flashing, and then we attach those with the clips I spoke about a minute ago. So I'll get those out first. These are the next section, and they basically come in underneath a little lip here. They clip over the top, and there's a small section here that I'm pulling round and holding in. That's the first job. We'll get both of those in. Pull them in, clip round the side of the flashing. Now this is the section where we use these small clips, okay? Now these clips are ingenious because all they do is they hold the flashing against the batten and keep it all nice and tight. But all you need to do is pull it up tight to the window and make sure it's held nice and square and against the batten. So it's important that you use these clips, and the screw goes through, keep it nice and tight to the window and fix it in. And you don't want to flatten this. That's there as an integral second line of defense. Now with a top Velux, you get this section of flashing here, which is actually two bits, and they lock together, okay? So they sort of come round and lock together, and that allows it to form the cover. So that's clipped on now, and then that will go directly on top of the window. So that clips in, and then we've got some screws. Now, the screws on this section locate into a plastic hole, nice and gently. Don't over tighten any of these. Then we go one into the flashing, which holds the last one we put in, number 4. Same on the other side. And then we're ready for the top tray. Before I put that on, I'm putting a support batten through. So we're just going to put that on all the way through here. We're going to put a section of batten underneath, and this is just going to hold it, and that gives our tray the support we need. So this is an additional support batten which goes on to just catch the back of the tray. And then we'll have the tray passed out to us. Now this is quite ingenious too, because it's held by clips integrated into the other flashings. So the idea is there's a groove all the way around which clips over the top of this. But on the side there's a couple of little tabs here. These tabs come through these slots here. So you're going to locate that there. That's the tab coming through. Then this bit goes behind this bit, like that. And you push it down nice and secure. And once you're at that point, you form that straight over the top of the whole flashing. That's the first thing. And so we fold this down, and that secures the whole thing in. Then we've got these last two clips which I like to add at the top. One here. And that's the whole flashing effectively finished. So then we're going to put some tiles round, the full tiles, and then we're going to get the cuts put in and tile over the top. So we start retiling where we can. Then that'll just leave the cuts which we can measure, cut and fix in. So the flashings are in, we've dressed the bottom flashing all over the tiles. Now we've just got to come up the side with the cuts. It's inevitable that you're going to get cuts. Sometimes you're lucky with some tiles that you can set them out to suit the full tile, but even in this situation you don't want to leave the drainage groove of the tile on show. So what we've got here is a nice even cut, and we measure it from the face over to this channel here. That's the position where the tile wants to finish. I'll slot a couple in to show you. Also, sometimes the nib of the tile needs to be trimmed so it doesn't hit the side of the flashing. I'll show you what that means for us. So this is the first two on this side. And you've seen I've trimmed the nib as well to actually accommodate that as well. So if we just slot those in. Now the idea of this foam is to obviously block that off. So some tiles aren't as profiled as these, and you trim that with scissors as you go. So now I'd know to trim that halfway up and discard it. But what's nice here is I can make use of the full foam in this lovely gap here. So you can see that we're in line there with that channel. So it's a nice, neat parallel joint as well. And the tiles simply slot back in all the way up, both sides, back on bond. And that's a really nice finish. And it's really nice with a roof window that you can actually do it all from the inside as well. So you don't need to be clambering around on the roof. You can just simply do it all from the inside. And this will take us up to the top flashing. That's a really pleasing finish. The last of the cuts on this side. So I'll get the same up the other side. It's a lovely straight cut, really nice and pleasing to the eye. Obviously the dust will wash off as soon as we have the first shower. That's this side as well complete. And now we're going to tile straight across the top. Now there's a part of the window, I'm going to pull it out and show it to you. And a lot of people pull these out and don't use them, but you actually do always need this. This is actually a tile support. And the idea is you position this up to catch your tile above. So it's actually your support, as if there was another course going through, because you lose that course because there is no course through here. It's just a full tile. So we'll slide this one back down. And effectively now we come through with a full set of tiles, and it's supported again on this nice eaves comb here and by this. So the top course will come through, and this will actually sit under the tile and give it exactly the support it needs. And you fold that over the top of the batten above, so it stops it from obviously moving. Another ingenious piece of kit. And the last tile before we slide the next course down. And there we have the window finished. So it's a matter of getting the glass in now. And gutters work like this. Perfect. So this is probably the trickiest bit, and that's getting the glass back in. It's almost like there's a knack to it, but if you're not fixing windows every single day, they always seem to be a bit more difficult. So what we actually do is we get the glass, so the outside's facing us and it's upside down. We pass it up through here, and then we turn it sideways so it fits in here. And then the sliders, the little swing arms of the hinges, we locate in both the sides of these hinges here. They'll slide round, and as soon as they're at that position and the little black ferrules are underneath, it's ready to close in. As it closes in, those two little pins that we pushed earlier to take the window out automatically click back, and that's locked in. Then we close it all the way up, and that's when we pre-stress the springs of the top hung section. So Lloyd and I, we're going to get it over here now and do our best to get it in. So the face is to the inside of the room. Yeah. So what we want to do, I'm only short, is come through on the angle. So face the window to you. Yeah. As much angle as we can get it. So, and then we're going to go straight up in the air. Now I can hold it here. If you can do the locating on your side. Yep. That's it. All right. Yep. So both sides are there now. So what you do is just let it go in. Let's see if we can hear the click. Now, we're going to get the window shut now. And we're going to lock this off at the top, because this is how we activate. Now you're taller than me, Lloyd. So Lloyd's going to push it open until the two arms are connected and the springs are loaded. All right then, Lloyd? Yep. So all the way up, nice, and push right up until you can't go anymore, and you'll hear it click together. That's it, now it's sprung. So now you can close it. And that is the window and the glass installed. And that's a nice job. So that's the window done. That's the last of all the windows on this job. There was 8 windows here, so they're all positioned all around the roof. And I particularly like fitting Velux windows. They're a really nice one, especially where you haven't got all the trimming to do here. We've got the structure far enough away to make a really nice job of it. So thanks for joining me on this channel. Thanks for watching all of our videos. We really appreciate it. And if you're still watching at this point, click subscribe and follow us.